Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and today I'm going to talk about what's sold on eBay, stuff that sells for the rest of us. These are going to be relatively easy to find things that I found at thrift shops and yard sales and a few auctions. But for the most part, it's going to be on the lookout things that are relatively easy to find when you're out and about. But first, a few mild points of interest. First of all, I got this as a gift for my partner because he pointed out to me something the other day that I had been kind of thinking about, but then just kind of pushing out of the way, which is I am in a rut. R-U-T, yes, rut. And the reason that I point that out is because you ever just get yourself in a situation where you're going to the same thrift shops, same auction houses, the same areas where yard sales are a lot? Well, I have, and while that's not a bad thing, sometimes you have to kind of sit back and think about whether or not what that means for your bottom line. And according to my partner, who is in charge of the bottom line, we're doing well, but previously we were doing better. And look, I'll be the first person to admit I've told you people that I'm lazy, and it was summertime, and even before that I was like in perpetual summer for a while. Posting antique textiles and vintage clothing and all that stuff on eBay is a pain in the ass, and over time I one day stood up and I shrugged. I shrugged. And I got into doing things that I thought were much easier. And yeah, everything I'm showing you here does well. I'm not pulling any punches here when I say that. I mean, I'm happy with our results. Can they be better? Should they be better? For us, probably, because we're both two very goal-oriented people, and so it's important to us that we kind of raise our game. And oh, say hi to my Bengal, who is a complete complainer. This cat is the most obnoxious animal I've ever owned, and he's dumb as a box of rocks. Aren't you, Squeaker? Yes, you are. You're so dumb, but we love you. Come on. You gonna say anything? No? You would, right? What? What? Say something. Oh my God. No, this is not like my child, okay? I'm sorry. Anyway, getting back on point, if I ever had one, I guess, 'tis the season to raise your game. If you think you're in a rut, you might be. If you're going to the same places, you should reevaluate. And that is something that all of us must do throughout life. Just constantly self-criticize in a good way and reevaluate, and just make sure that you're on the path to attaining whatever goals you may have. In our case, and actually you'll be seeing it probably within the next 90 days plus, I'll be posting more of a different range besides this. You're going to be seeing a lot more vintage fabrics, antique textiles, antiques in general, and you'll just be seeing a much bigger range of things. And I will try to keep it simple and fun and interesting, but just a 3-month warning, I guess. All right, and we'll move on from here. All right, I feel a little Lannisterish because about a week or so ago, I was listening to Floridian Picker's YouTube video for the first time. And he made a comment in passing about any video over a half hour being too long and just not worth the time. So, not really thinking about it. I mean, this is the first video I've seen by him. He's pretty good at what he does, actually. I just type a quick response saying, oh, okay, we're all cave people. We're not capable of listening past a half hour. Come on. I mean, it's just some sort of somewhat snarky, joking around, a little bit mean sort of comment. But anyway, listen to the rest of the video, and then he's like, so then I told my parents, and I'm like, oh my God, I just said something snarky to a young person. I mean, I think he's in college, so I guess I don't feel that bad about it, but it was almost like that Malcolm in the Middle show moment where Bill Cranston's character, the father, finds out that rather than punching out an adult, he actually punched out like a 16-year-old, and the kid's crying to his mom, and it was just he felt horrible. Well, I feel a little bad, so my apologies. I didn't mean anything really by what I said anyway, and I'm sure you probably didn't take it personally, but I guess I guilt myself out really easily, in case no one's noticed that. So anyway, I apologize, and I doubt you guys want to hear me do more apologizing, so we will move on to the substance of this video. Okay, and the first thing we have is a Masonic Grange / Freemason tie, and I posted this. It's by a no-name company I've never heard of, Rafaela, and I sold this within 3 weeks for $24.55. Okay, so this is a Fornasetti blue striped silk tie with a really cool eye in the middle. And I posted this. It sold within 5 days for $34.99, and it went up to New York City in Manhattan. And a gentleman emails me and says, "Hey, this tie's a bit wrinkled. Can we do something about this?" And I emailed him back and I said, "Well, it was a little wrinkled in the auction. I just didn't get around to steaming them that particular week, and it is what it is. But I'm open to suggestions." And so he suggests that he wants to take it to someone, and it will be $20. And it's Manhattan. I recognize that. As a matter of fact, I go there quite a bit to show antique textiles and vintage prints and clothing to some of the designers in Manhattan. So I said to him, "All right, look, let me take a look around your area there. I don't want to inconvenience you." I look around. He's got a dry cleaner in the same building where he lives. And, I know that kind of comes off as a bit creepy. But I did email him and "Hey, look, I don't mean to be, a total bitch, but, you have a dry cleaner where you live." And he's like, "Yeah, I know, but I hate that one. But there is one on the corner that will do it for $12. So we agreed to $12, and I refunded him that. So long story short, it took a little time to handle that. But it's important that you keep people happy. It's not worth the angst and the negative feedback. And I still came out ahead because I got that tie for 99 cents. So all is well that ends well, I guess. This is a Jim Thompson tie silk Dragonfly tie. And this was another one. I actually got this on the same trip as the Fornasetti. And I sold that actually a few days after the Fornasetti. And I got $28 for that one. Oh, and real quick, those Jim Thompson ties tend to do pretty well, especially if you're willing to wait a few weeks or a couple months to sell it. You can get some pretty decent bucks off those fairly consistently. That's not the first one that I've sold. Here we have an Invacare full body mesh sling, and it was a size medium. And I sold that for $55.99. It took me about, let's see, I posted that. It took me under 3 weeks to sell that. I think I agree with other people that say that as we grow older and the baby boomers grow older, you're going to see more sales of healthcare related items. So kind of train your eye. And if you see anything interesting like this, or maybe some of those leg casts. I know that Scavenger Life had one that they sold for decent bucks. But anyway, keep an eye out for those healthcare supplies. I think, from now until, the end of time, God forbid, I think we're going to see an increasing number of them, and I think that they will do well for resellers. Just obviously make sure that they're not junk. You don't want anybody hurting themselves worse because of something that you sold them. This is a vintage Sun Visor with the sale logo on it. That was a company from the 70s and 80s. I can't remember much about them. I just remembered their logo, which is why I picked it up. And I listed that for $22. Sold it on a best offer for $15, and I sold that in 12 days. These are vintage astronaut space ray water guns. There's actually a few Lugers there as well. There's a lot of 4 of them all new in the package. I sold those for $32.99, and it took me a little over a month to sell those, and they went to the UK. This is a belt buckle by Indiana Metalcraft, and well, the design's rather self-explanatory. And the Indiana Metalcraft items generally go between $20 to $50. I put mine at $35, and that was one I sold in about 2 weeks, and I shipped that out to Colorado for 35 bucks. This is a pair of distressed Arizona style Birkenstocks, and this style, this Arizona style, is pretty common. It's also fairly popular. I listed mine used for $44.99, and I listed that on April 28th, and it was shipped by May 2nd. This is a vintage Arnold Palmer Robert Bruce collaboration. It's an alpaca wool blend, yes, yellow, extra large, and I sold this for $42.99, and it took me a little under a month to sell, and I shipped that to Tampa, Florida. Here's a pair of vintage Hoflinger's fleece gloves for men. They're large skiing gloves with a fleece lining, and I sold those for $23 in May. So again, just goes to show you that you can sell cold weather items in the spring and summer. I listed these in the middle of the last month, so around April 16th. So it took me under a month to sell those, and those went to, ooh, that actually went to a designer in New York City. Huh, well, that's interesting. Designing gloves. Well, I guess you gotta design everything. Anyway, 23 bucks to New York City. This is a vintage Coach burgundy leather belt from their Bonnie Cashin era in the 70s. It's pretty beaten up. I actually find these at the weigh and goes quite often. Don't be afraid to sell the older Coach belts. They may take a little bit of time to move, but they will sell for you. I sold this one for $25, and actually this one I sold within 6 days. This is a green velvet floral burnout scarf by a company called Cocoon House. They do a lot of velvet burnout scarves. This particular one I sold for $24.99, and it took about 3.5 weeks to move that. Shipped to California. This is a Kevin O'Brien Studio purple silver abstract scarf, and I listed that for $39.99. It took me also a little under a month to move this one, and again, $39.99. I shipped that one to Oklahoma. This is a Mickey Mouse Disney early 90s fanny pack. I sold this within a few days for 20 bucks. You know, what I want to do one of these days is just a very serious video on fanny packs. Just all fanny packs. I mean, that would just be absurd. I don't know. That just strikes me as really strange. But I probably am getting to the point where I could literally do a half-hour video on just fanny packs. For some reason, this makes me think of a series of documentaries, or mockumentaries, really. They had Helen Mirren introduce them. The first season of Documentary Now was great. If you've ever seen the first one was with oh God, Bill Hader, that's his name. He did a really great mockumentary called Sandy Passages, which is meant to be a spoof on an hour and 40-minute real documentary, and I think that one was called Grey Gardens, and it was of these two hermit women who lived up in the Long Island area, and they were relatives of Jackie Onassis. And I mean, if you just want to watch something extremely fascinating about the human condition, take a look at Grey Gardens, and then go over and watch Bill Hader's work in Sandy Passages. It's just one of these videos that it starts out as you feel kind of bad for these two quote-unquote little ladies, And then as the video evolves, you slowly realize that what you're seeing is something totally different than what was intended. But it's a mockumentary series called Documentary Now. Check it out. I think there's some really, there's just some real gems in there. Okay, so you're clearly entitled to see some cute puppies as a result of that. So there you go, cute puppies. Moving on. This is a Erica Wilson Crewel embroidery kit that's 75% completed. I sold this for $54.99 in a month. This is a set of Thomas Kincaid matted prints. There were 6 of them. I sold them for $36. This is a Precious Moments Nativity accessory set. I sold this for $26. It took me about 3.5 months to sell it. And last but not least, this is vintage 50s white lace tall ruffled party dress. And I listed this for $160. It did have some small tears in the tulle at the bottom. Like if you look at the bottom left, you'll see probably about a 5-inch tear at the tulle at the very bottom there of the dress. And I listed it for $160. I sold it for $135 on best offer, and that took me about 3.5 months to sell. Shipped it to California. All right, everybody, that is it. I hope you have a great week and good hunting.